हरि ओम। गुणातीतमानं चिदानन्दरूपं चिदाभासकं सर्वगं ध्यानगम्यं मुनिध्येयमाकाशरूपं परेशं परब्रह्मरूपं गणेशं भजेम। परब्रह्मरूपं गणेशं भजेम। Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to session 53 of Bhagavad Gita verse by verse. Today we are going to start study of 8th chapter called Akshara Brahma Yoga. To begin with, we will take up first 7 verses. Dr. Vasumati, Shri Ullas, Shri Shivakumar, Srimati Smita, and Dr. Hegde sir himself will present these verses. Later, Chiranjeevi Hrishikesh will chant these verses from 8.1 to 8.7 for us. Now, it's time for revision of Upadeshasara Part 2, which we studied on Friday. Dr. Sundar will take us back to verses 16 to 22 of Upadeshasara. Over to you, Dr. Sundar.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. As we have seen earlier, this text is in 2 halves, comprising of the preparatory disciplines in the first half and the self-enquiry itself in the second half. Thus far, we have seen half of the self-enquiry portion, which I shall be recapping in this session. The 16th verse is an important verse, also called as the seed verse. In this verse, we see Ramana Maharishi describing the process of Atma Chintanam in a nutshell. Chittam Atmanaha indicates self-knowledge that obtains in a well-prepared mind. Self-knowledge comes through Jnana Yoga, which is Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam. During this, the Guru Shastra Upadesha works like a handheld mirror, showing us our true nature, which is of the form of Atma Swarupam. How does this work? There are several methods or prakriyas described in the scriptures. In this seed verse, Ramana Maharishi is adopting one such prakriya, which is called Drishya Varitam. This is similar to Neti Neti in the Shruti or Drik Drishya Viveka in the Prakarana Grantha. In this next slide, let us see what is Drishya Varitam. Drishyam is experienced object. Varitam is negation or withdrawal. Ramana Maharishi is telling us it is our day-to-day experience that whatever I experience is not me. I experience a book, I experience a pen. It is very clear to us that the book or the pen is not me. In other words, I, the experiencer, am different from anything that I experience. Ramana Maharishi takes this further to say that I experience the mind with all its attributes. I, the experiencer, am not the mind which is experienced. He takes it further one more level to the intellect and says, I, the experiencer, am different from the intellect because the intellect with all its attributes is experienced by me. Therefore, in this manner, through the process of Drishyavaritam, the world, the mind, as well as my own intellect is varitam or negated, or I withdraw from them. At the end of this, I have what is left with me is pure consciousness, awareness, which is attributeless. When we say it is attributeless, the core essence in me is free from the attribute of space. So it is all pervading. It is free from the attribute of time. So it is eternal. So there is a core essence within me, which is Sarvagatam and Nityam. In this verse, Chittva Darshanam refers to identifying or abiding with that core essence which is within me. But since it is of the nature of eternal and all pervading, Tattva Darshanam is identifying with the same entity which is outside of me. Having thus described in a nutshell, over the next 5 verses, Ramana Maharishi actually walks us through this process by giving us an instrument, so to say, on to travel through this spiritual goal. In this next verse, we see this Marge Arjavat. This is the direct method of Ramana Maharshi. He is taking us through a 3-step process where I can come to identify and abide in that pure attributeless awareness we saw in the seed verse. In the first level, Ramana Maharshi is telling that this tangible, solid world actually arrives to you only in the form of a thought. What I see is a thought. What I hear is a thought. The same is with regard to all the senses. The world arrives to me as a thought. Ramana Maharshi argues that in this manner, the world actually depends on the thought. Since it depends on the thought, it does not have as real an existence as the thoughts themselves, because it is dependent on them. In Vedanta, when a principle depends on something else, it is seen as a lower order of reality, something which is as good as not there, or in other words, as something which disappears in the cognition of a higher plane of reality. So in the first step, Ramana Maharshi is reducing this entire tangible world to mere thoughts, which he calls them as idam vritti, which is the world thought. Ramana Maharshi now takes us in these 2 verses through the next step. He's telling us that what we call as mind is just a collection of all these thoughts. Pujya Swami Paramarthanandaji gives the example of a fruit salad and tells us that the fruits in the fruit salad make the fruit salad. In the same manner, the thoughts in the mind is what make up the mind. Without these thoughts, there is no mind actually. This is what is referred as Vrittayo Mano in the 18th verse. In the second step, Ramana Maharshi draws our attention to the fact that the world thoughts themselves are dependent on one more variety of thought, which is the I thought, or the I-ness, or the ego, or the ahankara, or the word he uses is aham vritti. So the world thoughts, he says, is dependent on the I thought. Since it is dependent, it is of a lower order of reality as compared to the I thought. By the argument we saw earlier, then the world thought is as good as not there, or it disappears. There are 3 points to say why the world thoughts depend on the I thought. The first is that the I thought is of the nature of the first person, and without the first person, there cannot be a second or third person. The second point is, it is common experience to us that when we go into sleep, the world resolves. That is because the I thought itself resolves. Therefore, the world thought depends on the I thought. The third point is that this I thought is intimately associated with every single experience that I go through in the waking state. In other words, there is no experience possible without the presence of the I-ness or the I thought. All these go to show that the world thoughts depend on the I thought. Therefore, in this second step, we have resolved the world as well as the idam vritti or the world thought. Now, in this next slide, Ramana Maharshi takes us through the third step, which is described in these 3 verses, where he is telling us that even this I thought is not as real as it seems. It has a lower order of reality compared to the pure awareness or the attributeless consciousness, which was described in the seed verse. How do we say that the I thought is of a lower order of reality? One way of looking at it is, even in the deep sleep, when the I thought resolves, I am still there because I wake up the next day morning feeling refreshing that I have had a good sleep. Another example given by Pujya Swami Paramarthananda ji is one of the face, our face, and the mirror which we face every day. So Swamiji compares this I thought or the aham vritti to the reflection which is obtained in the mirror. We are all very clear that the reflection is unreal. It is unreal. There is no doubt for us whatsoever that the face that we have, that is where everybody puts the bottu. That's what Swamiji describes. Nobody ever gets confused and puts it on the reflection. So in the same manner, the I thought is a reflection of the original consciousness, pure awareness, which obtains in the mind, which forms a reflector. This lower order of reality of the I thought compared to the Atma is what is described in the 19th verse as Aipatatyaham. When we inquire into the reality of the Aham Vritti and see it as a lower order of reality, then it is as good as not there. And this is what is called as disappearance of the I thought. And this is described as Nija Vicharanam. And when we understand the reality of the reflection, then the original face springs forth. In the same manner, when we realize the reality of the Aham Vritti, the Aham Vritti disappears and Aham or the Atma springs forth, which is Purati Hrit Swayam. Another important point is made in the 21st verse that the Aham Vritti is Leena. It comes and goes whenever one goes into deep sleep and awakens. Whereas the Aham or the consciousness, the Sattaya, is alaya. It is always there. It does not have any form of fluctuation. So the goal in Vedanta is to gradually shift from the world thought to the I thought to Aham or Atma. In this next slide, in the verse 22, Ramana Maharshi also describes one more prakriya from the Taittiriya Upanishad called Panchakosha Viveka, which I will not deal with because of the lack of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sundar. That was a brilliant and a very clear summary of the key verses of Upadeshasara. In fact, if these verses are understood, we make a great progress into understanding the intricacies of Vedanta. What is this idam vritti, what is aham vritti, and what is aham? Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. After having completed the 7th chapter and taken a glimpse of the Upadeshasara, we now begin the study of the 8th chapter with a very deep sense of gratefulness. In the 7th chapter, we studied the importance of Ishvara. Krishna revealed himself as being everywhere, including in ourselves, and we realized how important Ishvara is there in every aspect of our life. Never before have we realized the importance of Ishvara in our lives. This 8th chapter is an unusual chapter in many ways. One is because it talks about Krama Mukti, whereas all the other chapters want us to get Mukti while in this life itself. So we have another alternative form of a Mukti of freedom, which is called Krama Mukti. The whole chapter is based on 7 questions raised by Arjuna in the beginning of this chapter, and which Sri Krishna will quickly answer. But most of the chapter is about remembering Ishvara at the time of death. And this is possible by becoming an Ishvara Dhyana or Ishvara Upasana. The real objective of this chapter is how to live, how to prepare us for our own death. Now, normally we do not discuss such a chapter, but this is very strange. Krishna in the battlefield is discussing with Arjuna about preparation for one's own death. This discussion does not happen anywhere as clearly as happened in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So really this chapter should prepare us to face our death very gracefully. If we understand this great Upanishadic mantra which comes in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, very popular, all of us know this mantra, Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotir Gamaya, Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya, Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. The key words which I've highlighted is, can we move from death to immortality? Which means I acknowledge there is something in me which is going to die, but there is something else in me which never dies. And this can happen only if I understand what is Asat and Sat. There is something in me, the body-mind complex is Asat, which is not going to be there all the time. But there is something in me which we learn through all these texts, the Sri Krishna principle, the Atma Tattva in me, which is going to be there all the time. And therefore, through Vedantic wisdom, that is Tamaso Ma Jyotir Gamaya, from the ignorance that I'm born with, I need to enlighten myself to say, I am not this body-mind complex, which is a perishing entity, but I need to identify with the Atma Tattva, which has been there from the very beginning, if there is a beginning, and which will be there all the time. All of us are spiritual seekers. And once we are a spiritual seekers, our life becomes a spiritual journey. A spiritual journey becomes meaningful, purposeful, and successful only if conducted with the help of a guru and shastras. And that is why we are so grateful to this blessing to have excellent teachers and the shastras available for us as guidance in our spiritual journey. Swami Paramatmananda ji has described most of us, our lives can be described by this one term as MBBS. Our lives are ordinarily so repetitive. And because it is so repetitious, it can be seen as meaningless, boring, burdensome struggle. How to get over that? The Bhaja Govindam has this very popular verse, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jatare Shayanam, Iha Samsare Bahu Dustare Kripaya Pare Pahi Murare. O Shri Krishna, I have had enough of this. Now, once a person reaches that level of frustration, I don't want to go back to the womb again and have this repetitive cycle of births and death. Now, a chapter like this will tell us how we can get out of it. Our vision now is from samsara to moksha. What is samsara? Samsara means a cycle of births and death. Moksha means freedom from cycle of birth. So let us have this as the vision of the spiritual journey. The first step of the spiritual journey is to move from samsara to moksha. The biggest problem in samsara is mortality. Now, the next step is, can I move from mortality to immortality? By common sense, we know it is impossible for a mortal being to become immortal. Logically, it is not possible, which means I need to see something in me which is real and something which is not real. That which is real is immortal. That which is not so real is there for some time, which will disappear. All our Upanishadic and Gita studies is to help us to discover what is Sat and what is Asat. And therefore, to move from Asato Ma Sadgamaya, to move from a false notion to a fact. What is the false notion? Mortality is an illusion. Immortality is my Swarupa. The more I realize that I have been there and I will continue to be there, the body-mind is incidental, and therefore I'm not going to invest too much on preserving this body-mind. Let me focus on that which is there all the time, my real self. This understanding can come only when I move from what I'm born with. I'm born with a certain amount of ignorance, but knowledge means Brahma Vidya, through Jnanam. The spiritual journey is now redefined as from ignorance to knowledge, from ajnanam to jnanam. Why are we studying Bhagavad Gita verse by verse? Let us be able to be sensitive to Sri Krishna's message to know how I can move from ignorance to knowledge. Sri Krishna in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita very clearly tells us the root cause of all our suffering. I will read the 2nd line of the 15th verse of the 5th chapter. Ajnanena avritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. Sri Krishna says, avritam jnanam, the real me, the Atma Tattva in me, is avritam, is covered by ajnanena. And because I am not aware of my real self, all of us continue to suffer. Sri Dakshinamurti has got a nice imagery in the form of apasmara, of forgetfulness. The moment I forget my true nature, I will continue to suffer. Sri Dakshinamurti all the time reminds us to be aware of your higher nature and not to be a victim of forgetfulness. Our spiritual journey, therefore, is in 3 steps. The first step is to get eligibility for spiritual knowledge, or jnana yogyata. The second is to get knowledge, and the third is to be anchored on it. Each of these requires certain upasanas or sadhanas that have to be concurrent all the time. Every action I do is a karma yoga. I integrate upasana or saguna ishvara jnanam all the time. Spiritual knowledge I get, that is shravanam and mananam. I internalize this knowledge. And as long as I'm doing these sadhanas, we will see when we are in the process of jnanam, there are 6 things worth knowing. Who is this jiva? Who's myself? What is this jagat that I see? Who is Ishvara? What is this bandha? What is moksha? And how do I move from bondage to freedom? You will see in this chapter, Arjuna is asking 6 questions. And all these 6 questions, you will see what is jagat, and we will have a different term for that. What is jiva? And how to remember God at the time of death. Now that is the sadhana that we are looking in this chapter. So in this chapter, we are looking at a different kind of a mukti called Krama Mukti for a person who's not able to get Brahma Vidya in this life for any reason. There is an alternative. That is what we are going to see in this chapter. We will begin by the opening 2 verses by Dr. Vasumati. Over to you, Dr. Vasumati.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We saw in verses 29 and 30 of the 7th chapter, Krishna introduced certain technical words without explaining them to Arjuna. He introduced 6 terms: Brahma, Karma, Adhyatmam, Adibhutam, Adidaivam, and Adiyagdam. After introducing these 6 terms, Krishna also talked about remembering God at the time of death. It naturally creates curiosity in the mind of Arjuna. Why should Krishna talk about Ishvara Smaranam at the time of death? Obviously, there must be some significance for that expression. All put together, 7 questions rise in Arjuna's mind. 6 questions dealing with the 6 technical terms, and the 7th dealing with the significance of remembering God at the time of death. And the entire 8th chapter is devoted to answering Arjuna's questions. By way of answering Arjuna's questions, Krishna introduces the important topic of Upasana, otherwise called Saguna Ishvara Dhyanam. Next slide, sir. The verse 8.1 goes like this. Kim tad Brahma, kim Adhyatma, kim Purushottama, Adibhutam cha kim Proktam, Adidaivam kim Uchyate. Meaning, Arjuna asked, what is Brahman, what is Adhyatmam, what is karma, what is said to be Adibhuta, and what is said to be Adidaiva, O Krishna. Next slide, sir. So the first question is, Tad Brahma Kim? What is that Brahman? Krishna used the term Brahma in the 29th verse. Te Brahma Tad Viduhu Krishnam. Arjuna wants to know, what do you mean by Brahma? Similarly, Kim Adhyatmam? What is the meaning of Adhyatmam, which is also introduced in the 29th verse, 2nd line, Adhyatmam karma chakilam. Therefore, what is Adhyatmam is the second question. The third question is Kim Karma? What do you mean by karma? What is its significance? The fourth question is Adibhutam Kim Proktam. O Lord, what is the meaning of the word Adibhutam, which occurs in verse number 30 of the 7th chapter, Sa Adibhuta Adidaivam. And the fifth question is Adidaivam Cha Kim Uchyate, and what is referred to as Adidaivam. The word we saw in 30th verse, He Purushottama, please answer these 5 questions, says Arjuna. And then Arjuna continues his question in respect of 2 more aspects in the next verse. Next slide, sir. The verse 8.2 goes like this. Adiyagna katam kotra dehe asmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katam jneyosi niyatatma bihi. Meaning, what is Adiyagnaha? How does he remain in the body? And how are you to be remembered at the time of death by the self-disciplined ones, O Madhusudana? Next slide, sir. Now comes the 6th question. Adiyagna kaha? Who is Adiyagnaha, or what is Adiyagnaha? Which is also mentioned in the 7th chapter, 30th verse. And there Arjuna adds another question as a subclause. Katam asmin dehe vartate? How does Adiyagna reside in the body? This shows that Arjuna had some idea about Adiyagna and thus extends the question with a further inquiry, says Swami Paramarthanandaji. And then comes the 7th and the final question. There also exists a subclause. The main question is, what is the significance of remembering God at the time of death? Is there any significance at all? And if there is a significance, what is it? Then Arjuna adds, how can a person remember God at the time of death? Next slide, sir. Swamiji says, even when we are alive, we are finding it difficult to remember God. And especially if we sit in meditation, we remember everything except God. When it's so difficult during normal days, how can I manage to remember God is basically our question voiced by Arjuna. When all the faculties are failing, how am I to remember the Lord at the time of death? Is there any technique? Oh Krishna, please teach me, says Arjuna. How are you to be remembered at the time of final journey? There must be tremendous control over the mind to remember the Lord at the time of death. Therefore, how can self-controlled people remember God at the time of death? This is the 7th question regarding Antakala Smarana. Hey Madhusudana, please answer these questions, says Arjuna. So the 8th chapter begins with Arjuna's question, and from the next verse onwards, Krishna starts his response to these queries, thereby enlightening us with the Upadhi of Arjuna. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Vasumati, for nicely presenting these 2 verses and kindling our interest to know the answer to all these key terms, which will be answered by Ullas. Over to you, Ullas.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Hari Om. So now Arjuna has presented the question paper to Lord Krishna, and now he has to answer that. So the 3rd verse onwards, the answers to those questions now begin. It goes like this. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavodhyatma Muchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaraha Visargah Karma Sangyitaha. The name of the 8th chapter itself is derived from this 3rd verse, because this is where the real teaching begins. The name of the chapter is Akshara Brahma Yoga, because that's where Lord Krishna starts teaching what is Brahman. So in this word, these are the 3 questions that get answered. Kim Tad Brahma, Kim Adhyatmam, and Kim Karma. What is this Brahman? What is this Adhyatma? And what is Karma that you just talked about? In the next slide, we see that he first answers the question of what is Brahman. Now, this is not Brahmaji, this is Brahman. Brahman is derived from the root word Brihat. Brihat means big. Now, the thing to notice is this is not bigger or biggest, because that automatically assumes a comparison. But infinite cannot be compared. So here we are talking about something which is so big that we just call it big. There is no comparison possible. And it says Aksharam. Na ksharati na nashyati iti aksharam. That which cannot be perishable or destroyed is what is called aksharam. But then why he uses the word paramam? Because he's paramam aksharam. We know that our alphabet of the language are also aksharam. but they are not the supreme ones. This Brahman is the supreme Aksharam. They also do not perish, but he's the most supreme, the superlative one. In the 7th chapter, we looked at Para Prakriti. The Apara Prakriti is the one which gets Kshara, but the Para Prakriti is the one which is Aksharam. The consciousness from the macro principle, from the totality, is the one which is Brahman. Now, the next point is, what is Adhyatma? In the next slide, he says that the consciousness, when seen, which is the all-pervading one, then it must be available in every individual also. Then when it is seen from the individual's perspective, it is called self. That is our Swarupa. But what happens is our inner nature, our inner essence gets covered by all the acquired nature that we have. All the Swabhava, whether I have an angry Swabhava or a greedy Swabhava, etc., etc. All those get superimposed upon our real nature. And so this Adhyatma sadhana is the one in which we slowly realize our real nature, and the acquired nature fades away, and it reveals our real nature. Now we are saying that the self is both at the macro level, at the micro level. Sometimes it is called Brahman, sometimes it is called Adhyatma. How it can be? Let's understand it with a simple example. In the next slide, we see, when you see this picture and we ask a question, who is he? One could say he's Sachin, or he's also an Indian. He's also a cricketer. He can also be called a father, a coach. How can the same thing be called with so many different names? It is because we are looking at it from different perspectives, by his profession, or by his country of origin, or by his role in the society. When these things are there, then the same thing is considered differently. But what happens is that after some time, maybe he'll not remain a cricketer. Maybe after some time, he'll not be a son, but the man behind always remains. That is the imperishable substance behind, which always remains. All the other upadhis might go away. They are the kshara ones, but the imperishable one remains. And then the last question, which is asked in the next slide, we'll see, is what is karma? Karma are the deliberate activities done by humans. The word important here is also deliberate, not just the activities, because just the activity does not make it a karma. The activity with the doership attitude, the kartritva bhava, is what makes it karma phala. Karma. We only say karma phala. We don't say kriya phala, because kriya in itself doesn't mean a lot. You need to have that doership attitude for it to be called karma. And so whoever has that kartritva attitude gets the karma phala. What are the different karma phala based out of my karma? At the individual level, all my karmas are going to result into my next janma. At the humanity level, at the totality level, all the karmas of the totality will define what is the birth of the humanity. So the reason due to which this life and death cycle comes and goes, Visarga means all the activities, Bhut Bhavod Bhavakaraha means all the reason why all these beings come and go, that is Karma Sangita. That is termed as Karma Sangita. So if we need to get rid of the karma, then we need to get rid of the doership attitude, and that way we can get rid of the karma phala also. That's also a subtle message is given to us here. The next of the different questions that Arjuna asked will be answered in the next verses. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Ulas, for giving a very comprehensive explanation, which Sri Krishna very briefly answers. These answers to these questions are very critical in the understanding of Brahma Vidya. We should be very clear about these terms. What is this karma? Karma is what is talking about, is what is responsible for the entire creation. It is a collective karma. Any action that I do is I am responsible for that. There is one word which is in the first question of Arjuna. He says Madhusudana. Swamiji calls Madhusudana also as the one who destroys all our karmas. Only when all our karmas are destroyed that it is moksha becomes possible. So another interpretation of the meaning of the word Madhusudana. The fourth verse will be explained to us by Shiv Kumar. Over to you, Shiv Kumar.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Out of the 7 questions raised by Arjuna in the first 2 verses of this chapter, We understood from the previous speaker Ullas, Krishna's answer for the first three questions. In this verse, Krishna answers the fourth, fifth, and sixth questions. He says, Adibhutam Ksharo Bhava Purushas Chadi Daivatam Adi Yagnoham Evatra Dehe Dehavritam Vara. In the next slide, these three questions answered by Krishna are listed, namely, what is Adibhutam? What is Adidaivam? Who is Adi Yagna? An additional question in this verse Arjuna has is Atra Dehe Dehavritam Vara. Where is that Ishvara? Where can I find him? And who is this? Is also explained by the Lord. Answering the fourth question in the first line, he says Adibhutam Ksharo Bhava. Bhavaha means an entity. Ksharaha means perishable. Hence, Adibhutam is all those perishable objects that we experience, which includes the five elements, the sun, moon, stars, rivers, mountains, even our physical bodies, all being perishable. The entire perishable material world is called Adibhutam. Coming to the next question, Krishna says Adidaivam or Adidaivatam as Purushaha or Hiranyagarbha. In Shastric language, Samasti Sukshma Sharira Sahita Chaitanyam is Hiranyagarbha. That is, total consciousness associated with the total subtle body, which can be taken as total mind, and associated with knowledge is called Hiranyagarbha. Every sense organ in us has a presiding deity enlivening its function. All the presiding deities put together is Hiranyagarbha, and this Hiranyagarbha is called Adidaiva. Just as the individual body is governed by individual mind, the total Adibhutam is governed by the total mind, and we know that this mind is called Hiranyagarbha Tattvam or Adidaiva. Coming to the sixth question, Adi Yagna. Krishna says, Adi Yagna Aham Eva. I myself am Ishvara. I am Adi Yagna. Now, just to understand what is Ishvara, Ishvara is defined as consciousness associated with the total Karana Prapancha. Karana Prapancha is the whole universe in potential form before the creation evolves, which we know as Maya or Shakti. This Maya or Shakti, along with consciousness, is called Ishvara. Thus, Krishna answers the sixth question by saying, I am Ishvara, I am the cause of the entire universe in the seed form. I am Adi Yagna. Now, coming to the additional question of Arjuna, Atra Dehe Deha Vritam Vara. Where is that Ishvara, that Adi Yagna? Where can I find him? Krishna says, Oh Arjuna, the greatest one. Every living being is the residence of the Lord. The Lord resides in everybody as Prajna Rupena, as the verily consciousness. Adi Yagna means dwelling in the hearts of all living beings of the universe. He is the receiver of the puja, all our karmas in the form of thought, word, and deed. And he is the karma paladata, the giver of karma palam. Therefore, we should always remember and imbibe Ishvara Arpana Bhava and Prasada Bhava. With this, the sixth question having been answered, in the next few verses, Krishna will answer Arjuna's seventh question regarding remembering God at the moment of death. I would like to conclude with a reminder to differentiate between Adi Daivam and Adi Yagna. Samasti Sukshma Sharira Sahita Chaitanyam is Adi Daivam. Samasti Karana Sharira Sahita Chaitanyam is Adi Yagna. Hiranyagarbha is Adi Daivam and Ishvara is Adi Yagna. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you, Shiv Kumar, for making a clear effort to tell us what is Adi Daiva, Adi Yagna. See, these terms should be very clear in our mind. Swami Anubhavananda ji has said that people may attend any number of satsangs, but they are not very clear about who is this Adi Yajna. Shri Krishna has very clearly told us Adi Yajna is I myself who is residing within the body. He says, I am the Karma Paladata. All your actions, what your Ishvara Arpana, everything comes to me. Whenever I do any action, I will get a certain amount of karma. It can be a punya or papa. Is this decided by my action, or is it decided by the motive with which I do my action? Is my action more important, or is the motive with which, because I can do a seemingly good act with a bad intention, or vice versa. I may do a seemingly bad action with a very good intention. Ultimately, you will see the intention with which you do a particular action will determine the kind of benefit, the punya or the papa that you get for the action. Who will know the intention? Someone who has access to all your thoughts. And that is why it is that Shri Krishna principle who is sitting within us, who is the Adi Yajna. That means there is that awareness principle in me, the one who is Ishvara, that who is combined with Maya is Adi Yajna. That means every action that I do, every thought that I do, Shri Krishna is watchful. Shri Krishna, I carry Shri Krishna with me. If I am the receptacle of Shri Krishna, therefore, I need to be worthy of being able to carry Shri Krishna wherever I go. And that is what these verses so nicely bring about. Now, the next question, how to remember God at the time of death. Smita, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Up to verse 4, Lord Krishna answered all the 6 questions of Arjuna. And from verse 5 onwards, till the end of this chapter, Lord answers 7th and the final question regarding the method of remembering the Lord at the time of death. This verse is considered as Sutra Shloka or Sankshep Shloka, which Lord Krishna elaborates in the later verses about how to remember the Lord at the time of death, how to practice pranayama, how to withdraw all the sense organs, and how to utter the word Om, etc. By answering 7th question, Lord Krishna deals with the topic of Saguna Ishvara Upasana as sadhana. Saguna Ishvara Upasana means meditating upon God with attributes. Lord with various attributes described in the scriptures can be meditated upon, and it is considered as very important spiritual sadhana. This Saguna Ishvara Upasanam can give twofold result depending upon the motive with which it is done. So broadly, Saguna Ishvara Upasanam divided into Sakama Saguna Upasana and Nishkama Saguna Upasana depending upon the motive. In Sakama Saguna Upasanam, the Upasaka does the Upasana for material benefits other than the spiritual goal. It can be for Artha, Kama, Dharma, or even for various miraculous power or siddhis. In Nishkama Saguna Ishvara Upasanam, the Upasanam is done only for spiritual benefit. The Saguna Upasaka remembers Saguna Ishvara as the result of Upasana. A Jnani also remembers Lord or Nirguna Ishvara at the time of death as a result of Nididhyasanam that he has practiced. As a result of Saguna Smaranam, the Upasaka attains Krama Mukti, while Jnani attains Videha Mukti as a result of Nirguna Smaranam. Therefore, the word Madbhavam can be either Krama Mukti or Videha Mukti. With this background, the meaning of the verse goes like this. Antakale cha mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah. Yah prayati. Yah means refers to Nishkama Saguna Upasaka who has practiced Saguna Ishvara meditation and has never come to Nirguna Brahman at all. And when such a Upasaka departs, that is prayati. And how? Kalevaram Muktva, that leaves this physical body and travels. Here, when we say he travels, it means Sukshma Shariram plus Karana Shariram plus reflected consciousness, which is called as Ahankara. This invisible Ahankara of the Upasaka travels along with the Punyam he has acquired through the Upasana. And this merges into Brahman, Samadbhavam Yati. The Upasaka will not directly merge into Brahman. He will travel through Shuklagati and attain Brahmaloka. In Brahmaloka, he attains Nirguna Ishvara Jnanam, and thereafter he becomes Jivan Mukta. At the time of Mahapralayam, the Jivan Mukta Upasaka attains Videha Mukti. All these are contained in one word, Madbhavam Yati. Therefore, Lord Krishna emphasizes on Antakalecha Mam Eva Smaran Kalevaram Muktva Yah Prayati Samadbhavam Yati Atra Samshaya Na Asti or Na Vidyate. Lord Krishna guarantees there is no doubt about that. Such a devotee will come to me alone. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Smita, for a nice explanation of a verse where Sri Krishna is giving us such an amount of assurance. He says, have absolutely no doubt that if you remember me at the time of death, but however, as you will see, it will be possible to remember God at the time of death if you have been able to do that exercise of remembering God all the time. We have two more verses where which are a kind of a warning verses. What will happen if a person does not remember God at the time of death? As doctors, we have the experience of seeing people at the time of death. At the time of death, there is so many things that are happening. It becomes extremely difficult to remember God at the time of death because you will be thinking of so many other things. And this verse says something very significant. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajyate yante kalevaram tam tam eva iti kaunteya sada sadbhava tadbhava bhavitaha, which means smaran, those who are thinking whatever they are thinking of at the time of relinquishing this body, that is what they are going to attain, because that is what their thoughts are always that is what their thoughts are always about. Here is a warning: what if a person does not remember God at the time of death? What will happen to them? See, there is a very powerful law which has been brought out by Gautama Buddha and also our Upanishads, like the this is a verse from the Mundaka Upanishad, which says that you are your essential thoughts. Whatever you really want, whatever your real deep desires are, the human mind has the ability to manifest whatever you really want. Gautama Buddha had said, therefore, the significance or the importance of your thoughts. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, it becomes your habits. Watch your habits, it becomes your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. That means if you can change your thoughts from mundane, worldly-centric thoughts to God-centric thoughts, our whole destiny now becomes changed from the world to God. The example always given is the story of Jada Bharata, who was a great king, and after a wonderful reign, he relinquished everything and goes to the forest as per our practice. That means all of us have to become Vanaprastha and become sannyasa. He did all that. He relinquished his kingdom and went to the forest. And while in deep meditation and doing all the spiritual practices, he so happened to see a tiger killing a pregnant deer, and the little one, it delivered a newborn deer. And having witnessed the new birth of the deer, he took care of that, brought up that deer. And as the deer grew up, it went away. But all his thoughts were, how will the deer take care of itself? And with those thoughts, he died. And the story goes that in the next birth, because that was his most central thought, he was reborn as a deer. Whether that happened or not may not be essentially true, but these are stories and these are scriptural verses which tell us how important it is to have God-centric thoughts all the time, especially at the time of death. Now, as we get older, our bodies are not going to be like what they are. As we get older, one thing is very clear: our will becomes weak and our vasanas become stronger. And therefore, even if you want to will that at the time of death, I will think of God, it is your vasanas will determine what kind of thoughts you will have at the time of death. And therefore, it may be a bitter truth, but this is true, that the preparation for our death starts now. That means the more we live a more fuller life, a more God-centric life, it becomes more easy to die. The next verse is how to keep Ishvara in our subconscious mind. And therefore, Shri Krishna says, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmaram Yuddhacha. My arpita mano buddhi mam eva ishyasi asamshaya. It means tasmat, therefore, anusmaram mam, remember me, sarveshu kaleshu, all the time, cha yuddhya. Yuddhya does not necessarily mean fight, but in our context, to live dynamically, to be alert, to live life 100%. And how? Arpita mano buddhi, with our intellect and mind focused upon me, yeshasi, you will attain mam eva, me alone, asamshaya, about which Sri Krishna says, have no doubts whatsoever. Now, how can we do this? How can we remember God all the time? Swamiji gives the example of when you are going on a long distance journey and you are in a train. Many times in intermediate stations, we get off. We may do so many things, but all the time we are connected to the sense of the train, because I know that is my long journey. As doctors, even as we are performing the operation, we may be intricately focusing on the job ahead of us, but our ear is tuned to the heartbeat of the patient, so that we are very sensitive to anything that might affect the heartbeat. So while we are focused on one thing, our subconscious should be focused on the Lord, and that is how we need to be remembering Ishvara all the time. The more we get up with Ishvara-centric thoughts, the more we begin every activity of our life, every journey, every car ride, we begin by praying to God, we conclude by thanking God. Each time we eat food. So if every activity that we do is God-centric, and that is the exercise the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita tells us. And what this tells us is, do this as an exercise every day. See how you can remember Ishvara all the time. Our next set of verses in the next class will be deepening on this particular theme, how to remember God at the time of death. We will conclude today's class by the chanting of these verses 1 to 7, by another very young participant, Rishikesh. Over to you, Rishikesh.
Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Atha Ashtamodhyayah Akshara Brahma Yogaha Arjuna Uvacha Kim Tad Brahma Kim Adhyatmam Kim Karma Purushottama Adhibhutam Cha Kim Proktam Adhidaivam Kim Uchyate Adhiyajñakatam Kotra Dehesmin Madhusudana Prayana Kale Cha Katham Jneyosi Niyatatmabhihi Shri Bhagavan Vacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Svabhavojyatma Muchyate भूतभावोद्भवकरो विसर्गकर्म संज्ञितः अधिभूतं क्षरो भावः पुरुषश्चादिदैवतम् अधियज्ञोऽहमेवात्र देहे देहभृताम्बरा अन्तकाले च मामेव स्मरन् मुक्त्वा कलेवरं यप्रयाति समद्भावं याति नास्त्रित्य संशयः यं यं वापि स्मरद्भावं त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरं तं तमेवैति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावितः तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मर युध्य च मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः मामे वैश्यस्य संशयः हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः.
Thank you, Rishikesh, for your beautiful chanting. Thank you all speakers for your nice presentations and Dr. Hegde sir for taking us through today's session. Friends, please log in by 6:45 p.m. on Friday for our next session. Until then, Jai Shri Krishna. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vachishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.